Come closer, children. Sit by me. My bones may be old now, but my memories? Oh, they are still sharp as needles. And there are some stories a woman never forgets, even when a whole lifetime has passed. This happened many years ago, when I was still young, still foolish, still believing that love meant sacrifice, and that my husband would protect me. I was wrong. My husband, Marcus. Marcus. He was a man whose dreams were always bigger than his wallet, and whose pride was bigger than his heart. He had become obsessed with building a grand lake house. Not a simple cottage, mind you, but something he said would prove his importance. A mansion meant to impress powerful men. One morning, he looked up from his breakfast and said, as casually as someone asking for sugar, "Naomi, I need $75,000. $75,000? As if it were pocket change. While I sat there, holding a cup of cheap coffee, wondering how we would even buy groceries that week. "Marcus, where will we get that money?" I asked. He finally looked at me. That cold look that always made me feel like I was a burden. "I've already made arrangements," he said. "Just hand me the money." When I protested, he slammed his hand on the table so hard that the spoons rattled. "You don't understand the importance of this project, Naomi. You think like a clerk. I think like a leader." His words stung more than the shout. I made the mistake of mentioning my little vegetable garden. And oh, children, that small comment was like lighting a match in a dry forest. His face twisted with rage. "I'm done with your complaints. Get dressed, we're leaving." I should have questioned more, but those were the days when my voice was small and his shadow was big. He told me not to take my curse, not my phone, said it was a confidential meeting. I obeyed. Foolish, foolish me. We drove for nearly half an hour. Cities disappeared. Then houses. Until nothing but empty fields stood beside us. Without warning, he stopped near a broken-down bus shelter. "Get out." I blinked. "Why? Where are we?" "Get out." I stepped outside, confused, the wind biting through my jacket. I turned to look at him, expecting him to follow, but he didn't even turn off the engine. "Marcus, what's happening?" He smirked, a cruel smirk that still burns in my memory. "You didn't want to help me, Naomi, so now figure it out yourself." Before I could speak, he hit the gas. The tires spat dust into my face as he vanished down the road. I stood there, frozen, abandoned, like a forgotten piece of trash. No phone, no money, no idea where I was. And children, there are moments in life when you don't just feel pain, you feel erased. As I sat shaking on the old bench inside the bus shelter, that's when I noticed her. An elderly woman, sitting quietly in the corner, wearing oversized dark glasses and holding a thin cane. She looked like she had been carved from silence itself. Suddenly, she spoke without turning her head. "Stop crying. Tears won't solve your troubles." I gasped. I didn't even know someone was there. "Husband throw you out?" she asked, almost casually. I could only nod, choking on my own breath. "Men," she said. "Always the same. But child, do you want him to regret this today?" I stared at her. A blind, old woman offering me revenge? It sounded like madness. "How?" I whispered. "My driver is coming. You will pretend you're my granddaughter. We will leave in my car. And your husband will regret abandoning you beside the wealthiest woman in this region. Before I could question further, a black luxury car glided towards us, silent, intimidating, expensive. The driver stepped out, opening the door with a bow. "Miss Vance, we're ready." The old woman rose. "Darius, my granddaughter joins us today." Granddaughter? Me? But children, survival teaches you to take strange hands in strange moments. And my fear of staying alone on that dead road was stronger than the fear of stepping into the unknown. I followed her into the car. And as the door closed behind me, sealing out the world I had known, I had no idea I was stepping into a story even darker than my husband's betrayal. And that, children, is where everything truly began. What I didn't know then was that the woman sitting beside me wasn't blind at all, and she knew far more about my life than I knew about hers, and she was about to change my fate forever. Now listen closely, children. Because the moment I sat inside that silent, leather-scented car, my life split into a before and an after. The old woman, Miss Vance, sat beside me, expression unreadable behind those dark glasses. The driver, Darius, pulled away so smoothly that I barely felt the car move. Outside, empty fields blurred past, but inside, it felt like stepping into another world. I sat there, trembling, trying not to cry again. I still couldn't understand why a stranger would help me. We drove through winding roads until we reached a massive iron gate. No flowers, no softness, only cameras, guards, and stone walls. It wasn't a house, it was a fortress. When we entered, I felt even smaller, like I had wandered into a place meant for people with power, not abandoned wives left on country roads. Inside, everything was polished and cold. Marble floors, tall ceilings, heavy furniture. No photos, no warmth, just silence. "Sit," Miss Vance commanded, pointing her cane toward a stiff-looking sofa. I obeyed, hands shaking. Then, without warning, she lifted her hands, removed her dark glasses, and children, whisper softly, she looked straight at me. She wasn't blind at all. Her eyes were sharp, piercing, almost frightening in how deeply they seemed to see into me. "My name is Eleanor Vance," she said, voice transformed, no longer frail, but strong, commanding. "And you, Naomi Sterling, are 38 years old, administrator at the steel mill, married to Marcus Sterling, an overly ambitious minor official." My mouth fell open. How do you know all this?" She gave a faint smile. "My dear, in this city, nothing of importance escapes me." I swallowed hard, my shock mingling with fear. And I pretended to be blind because people behave differently around those they think cannot see. She leaned back, tapping one finger thoughtfully against the arm of her chair. What I witnessed today was not a random act of cruelty. It was a plan. Your husband intends to discard you like an obstacle in his way. Her voice tightened, not with pity, but with cold resolve. And I am offering you the chance to fight back. Those words struck me like a lightning bolt. For so long, I had been silent, obedient, small. But inside me, something had started to burn. Eleanor poured me a glass of water and handed it over. "You will stay here for now. I will provide clothes, a phone, legal help. You will get your life back." "Why?" I whispered. "What do you want in return?" She smiled, not kindly, but knowingly. "A favor, one day at a time of my choosing." I should have been afraid, but all I felt was relief. For the first time in years, someone was on my side. Estelle, her housekeeper, led me to a guest room. Everything was spotless, emotionless, but warm water and clean clothes were a comfort after the cold of abandonment. After I showered and changed, I returned to find dinner prepared: roasted chicken, salad, fresh bread. But Eleanor wasn't alone. Darius stood behind her like a silent guard, and across from her sat a man in a flawless suit. "This is Josiah Wells," Eleanor said, "my lawyer." He nodded at me, expression grave. "Mrs. Sterling, your husband's actions may legally qualify as abandonment in a dangerous situation, but proving intent will be difficult." Then his voice sharpened. "The bigger danger is your home, the apartment you inherited from your parents. It is your sole property. He cannot touch it legally. But the fact he left you without money or phone suggests he plans something unconventional." My stomach twisted. That apartment was all I had left of my family, my childhood, my parents' memories. What should I do? Eleanor slid a brand new phone toward me. "This is yours now. A clean number. No one else has it except Mr. Wells and me." I held the phone like a lifeline. "Now," she said, "you will return to your apartment with Darius, and you will see with your own eyes what your husband has done." Fear knotted in my stomach, but so did a strange courage. Darius drove me back. The city lights blurred past as the sky darkened. When we reached my building, my heart hammered like it wanted to escape my chest. I imagined Marcus inside, clueless, thinking I was stranded somewhere on a lonely road. I imagined bursting in, showing him I wasn't broken. But children? Reality isn't a story where the villain is surprised. When I reached my door, my key didn't fit. I tried again, harder, then with the second key. Both locks had been changed. My legs nearly gave out. No, he wouldn't. But he had. He had locked me out of my own home, my childhood, the last piece of my parents. Everything inside me shook: rage, grief, disbelief. I called Mr. Wells. He told me to contact the sheriff and report unknown individuals changing the locks, not to mention Marcus. As I waited for the officers, sitting on the stairs like a stranger in my own home, I felt the last fragments of my old life cracking. And then, footsteps echoed up the stairs. Marcus arrived. But he wasn't alone. Beside him walked a beautiful young woman, and around her neck, she wore my mother's pendant, the one I kept hidden in my bedroom drawer. And that, children, was when I realized my husband hadn't simply abandoned me. He had replaced me. But the worst was yet to come. My husband had not only stolen my home, he had forged my signature, framed me as a thief, and prepared to destroy my entire identity. And I, an old, naive wife, was about to learn just how far a cruel man can go. Children, come closer. This part of the story still shakes me, even after all these years. Because this was the night I learned that a person you love can destroy you more thoroughly than any enemy. When Marcus walked up those stairs with that young woman on his arm, he looked triumphant, confident, almost proud of what he had done. And the woman beside him, Tiffany, the district attorney's daughter, she tilted her head ever so slightly and touched the necklace around her throat. My mother's necklace. My mother's last gift to me. To see it on her was like having something ripped straight out of my chest. Tiffany didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her smirk said enough. You've already been replaced. The officers turned to Marcus immediately, their posture changing. A respectable man, a well-dressed woman beside him, a confident voice. And there I was, tired, shaken, without ID, without a purse, without even a phone of my own until hours ago. Gentlemen, Marcus said, feigning concern, my wife is going through a difficult period, emotional instability, confusion. I wanted to scream, but my voice got trapped in my throat. He handed the officers papers, a divorce petition and a restraining order. A restraining order against me. She is not allowed near me or this property. Doctor's orders, he said smoothly. This is my apartment, I cried. My voice cracked so sharply it hurt. My parents left it to me. He has no right. But the officer was already frowning, uneasy. Ma'am, the locks match the new entry records filed this week, he said. If you've sold the property? Sold? I repeated, stunned. I never. Mr. Wells arrived just then, thank God, and addressed the officers calmly. My client owns this apartment. Any sale must be documented. Marcus didn't miss a beat. He pulled out another paper, one he had hidden like a final weapon. A purchase agreement, dated 2 weeks earlier. It claimed I sold my apartment to him for $25,000, and at the bottom, my signature. Perfect, identical, a copy of my handwriting. Children, there are moments in life when your own name on paper feels like a stranger's hand stabbing you. This is a forgery, Mr. Wells said, eyes narrowing as he examined it. Oh, Marcus laughed lightly, or maybe my wife is ashamed of what she signed? I felt dizzy, angry, sick, terrified. Then, as if that weren't enough, Marcus added, Officers, I also suspect she stole a large sum of my savings from the apartment. I didn't, I shouted. I didn't touch anything. But children, lies spoken confidently often sound truer than the truth whispered through tears. The officers exchanged glances, and I saw it in their eyes. Doubt, suspicion, weariness. This wasn't a crime to them. This was a messy marriage they didn't want to get in the middle of. We'll all go to the precinct, one officer said. We'll sort this out formally. Tiffany squeezed Marcus's arm before slipping inside the apartment like she already owned it. Marcus stood there, smiling at me, smiling like a wolf. Well, Naomi, he whispered when the officers turned away, you wanted independence. Now you have nothing. His words carved into my bones. At the precinct, they questioned me for hours, twisting my words, asking things like, why didn't you take your purse? Why weren't you answering your phone? Why didn't you report earlier? Why did you sign the apartment sale? Every question felt like an accusation. And through all of it, Mr. Wells stood beside me, fighting, but it was like shouting into a storm. The officers didn't care. The papers with seals mattered more than the woman trembling in front of them. By morning, they released me. I walked out of that precinct feeling like a ghost. No home, no belongings, no identity, no safety. Children, I was truly alone. Mr. Wells drove me back to Eleanor's mansion. I didn't speak, not a word. I felt hollow, like someone had scooped out my soul and left me only a shell. When Eleanor summoned me after lunch, she looked at me as though evaluating a damaged object. Well, she asked, are you finished crying now? I said nothing. She leaned forward, her voice cold but sharp. You let him destroy you. You walked into every trap. You handed him your life on a silver platter. Her words cut because they were true. I whispered, what do I do? Eleanor's lips curled into something between a smile and a threat. What do you do? She repeated softly. You fight, Naomi. You fight harder than you ever thought yourself capable of. She tapped her cane once, sharply, against the floor. And you start by accepting the truth. You are no longer a wife. You are no longer a homeowner. Your reputation is gone. But that means you have nothing left to lose. Her eyes sparkled, not with pity, but with calculation. And a woman with nothing left to lose, she whispered, is more powerful than any man who wronged her. Children, that was the night I stopped being who I was and began becoming someone entirely different. Children, what came after this? The revenge, the secrets, the favor Eleanor demanded, that is a story for another night. But know this, when a woman rises from ashes, she does not rise gently.